good to see everybody here. I have Elvin here right now, and whoever else has joined in but hasn't gotten into the chat. It's good to be back at a couple of weeks of rest and relaxation. Uh, and now I'm refreshed and renewed and ready to come back to work. Hey, Marion. Thank you. Marion says, glad you're back. It's good to be back. Let me introduce myself. My name is Karen Marinez. I'm an emotional wellness coach. Your emotions. It's good to be here. Glad to have you here. We're going to talk about the ego and how it is my camera a little blurry? Is that better? I don't know. And how the ego affects us. I think it might be the internet. Gabby, good to have you here. Hey, girl. It's a holiday here today, Indigenous Day. A lot of people were off probably. The kids were out of school. Voiceover HQ. Hello, Herbie. Nice to have you. Gracias por venir y apoyar. We're going to talk about the ego. So the ego is very interesting because it's the identity we build of ourselves. It's the I that tries to protect, control, and seek recognition. So if a person begins every sentence with I, right, it's sometimes a sign of a big ego. Imani, hello, good to have you. It was a psychologist named Sigmund Freud, many of you have probably heard about him, who put ego, that word, into the popular vocabulary. But what he meant by the word is more complex. Most of us generally use ego to mean what? Oh, he has an exaggerated sense of himself. What a big ego he has, right? Or don't step on his ego, right? But when used in that way, it's like an exaggerated sense. It's the same as conceit, like when someone is conceited. Hey, Yolanda from Palm Bay, good to have you. It's the same as saying she's so conceited or she has a big ego. But imagine meeting a superstar athlete without a trace of this kind of ego. Wouldn't that be refreshing? Some people meet stars. Hey, Danielle, good to have you. Estamos bien. A lot of people meet stars and they're like shocked that they're so unassuming, right? You would never know if you didn't know. So having a reasonable sense of our own worth is no sin. That's a good thing. We always talk about that, having our self-esteem where it should be. And life's little everyday victories are good, in fact, necessary for a healthy ego. So we're going to see a whole different side of the word ego that we normally don't hear about. We don't hear it referred to in that way. We're going to talk about the ego in psychology. Hey, Deborah, good to have you. We're going to talk about the ego in psychology. So if you want to take notes, it will be a good idea because it's a whole different concept. So for example, what's an ego in psychology? So a person is walking past an outdoor cafe. They see the people, looking, they're in the outdoor tables, and they don't think to go sample food off of the people's plates, even if they're hungry. Would you do that? You're hungry, you're walking past a cafe, people are, and you go and grab off their plates? No. What holds you back from doing that? That's the ego. The ego would tell you it's not acceptable to take food off of other people's plates. And you would rationalize that is theirs, and I'm on my way home and I'll get my dinner soon. So the ego is a part of our mind that manages reality and helps us make decisions. It functions and interacts with our environment. For example, a person choosing to politely ask for a favor instead of demanding it. So we balance our desires with social norms, or deciding to delay gratification by saving money for a future goal, or actively managing stress by using coping mechanisms to navigate difficult situations instead of flying off the handle. It's the ego that keeps us doing the right thing. So it shows that the ego's role helps us to balance our impulses with reality and social expectations. Isn't that interesting? So hey PJ Pam, good to see you. Oh, voiceover. Herbie is from Venezuela. I didn't know Herbie speaks English. That's amazing. um, so so that's the ego that we're talking about. We also say, oh, he's so egotistical. I don't even know if that's a real word or that's just how we say it. But that's not the ego. We're going to talk about that side of the ego, but in this side, we're talking about the good of the ego, the entire word ego and what it represents. Okay, so here are some examples, key points about the ego in psychology. One is reality testing, assessing whether thought or perception aligns with reality. Like somebody accidentally bumps into you and you realize, I'm not a target, it was an accident. Impulse control, managing strong emotions and desires to act in a socially acceptable way, like refusing or resisting the urge to yell at someone who cuts you off in traffic and you're outside the window, right? The ego holds you back from doing that. Oh, let them go. Managing strong emotions so that you can act in a socially acceptable way. Number three, decision making, weighing options, choosing the most appropriate course of action based on the situation, like deciding my friends invited me out, but I have an important exam tomorrow. Should I stay and study or should I go? The ego would say, if you want to do well on that exam, stay home or go out for an hour, come back and hit it hard, right? Decision making, self awareness. The ego helps us recognize our own thoughts, feelings, and motivations and allows us to adjust our behavior accordingly. Isn't that interesting? These are things we don't learn because we only know ego means conceited. Oh, he has a big ego, or he wants me to stroke his ego, right? That's how we usually use the term. Here are some other examples of ego psychology in action. A child wants to grab a toy from another child, but then decides to ask nicely, can I play with your toy? Right? Another example, someone feels angry at a coworker, but they choose to calm themselves down and address the issue in private, calmly. That's a decision. That's the ego saying, what's the social norm? What's the better way to handle this? Another one, a person managing their anxiety by using relaxation techniques before a presentation instead of running out, I can't do this. They say, let me do my diaphragmatic breathing. Let me go take a walk. Let me get a drink of water, right? Or a struggling student actively seeking help from a tutor to improve their grades. So you see how this is the ego in a favorable way, how it helps us in a good way to manage life's challenges. Okay, so why is it important to understand the ego? Because it can be a survival tool, helping us to create a sense of identity. But of course, an unchecked ego, which is the one that we're familiar with, can sabotage happiness and relationships. How? Well, there's a relationship between ego, fear, and insecurity. So the ego often wants to protect us from perceived threats. And you notice I say perceived threats because everything is from our perception, the way we view things. That it could cause us to resist change. I don't want to move. I don't want to change jobs. I don't want to travel to that place. I don't want to make this change because, oh, I'm afraid. We may avoid challenges. We fear failure. So that ego, when it comes in regards to fear and insecurity, can hold us back from trying new things. We want to stay in our comfort zone. I'm good right here. I'm not moving. That's when ego can get in our way. What about with interpersonal relationships? When the ego dominates us, we can become arrogant, feel superior, or the opposite, play the victim. For example, during the arguments, and imagine a couple, and we would hope they're having a disagreement. The ego wants to be right all the time, even if it harms a relationship. I don't care. I'm right. And it's very difficult to have a relationship with someone, an ongoing, peaceful relationship with someone like that, because they're never wrong. They have to have the last word. So it gets involved. It can harm relationships when we have that ego too elevated. It's a practical example. Imagine a student or someone at work, they receive constructive criticism. It's not an attack, but how do they perceive it? Oh, I was attacked. They feel attacked, and then they react defensively. That's a reflection of the ego trying to protect its image. This is who I am. That's the ego that we're used to respect. This is who I am. How dare she? Who does she think she is? Right? That's how situations. You're always right, and there's no one that can correct or give constructive criticism. Then you just stay right where you are. That we don't want to be like that. That's why we're here, because we want to keep growing, right? We want to keep becoming better people. We want to keep attending to our emotions. But in order to do that, we have to let that ego go. Okay? Notice this: self-esteem and self-worth. We always talk about that around here because it's so important. Some people say, no, I had a client earlier and I asked her, I gave her homework because she's been through a lot. So I want her to list all of her good qualities. She said, oh, that's going to be very difficult. I said, why? She said, well, because I'm not supposed to think too highly of myself. You're not supposed to think too highly, but you're supposed to think well of yourself. There's a difference, right? And there's the ego. So she'd rather not even delve into that. So then I said, well, what if you ask other people? She said, oh, I would never do that. You see, not willing to budge. I'm staying in my comfort zone. But the ego has a lot to do with our self-esteem and self-worth. The ego in psychology encompasses self-esteem, which refers to how individuals perceive and value themselves. Again, not the outside world. We're always looking to the outside world to esteem us, to validate us. But what we learn around here is we need to esteem ourselves, and we need to value ourselves. But someone with a healthy ego, not an out of control ego, someone with a healthy ego has a positive self-image. They feel confident in their abilities. They know what their strengths are, and they maintain a sense of self-worth no matter what goes on in their surroundings. But conversely, someone with a low self-esteem can indicate a weaker ego, leading to self-doubt, insecurity, and a negative self-concept where no matter what anyone tells them, oh, you're so kind. No, I'm not. Oh my goodness, I couldn't have done it. You could have. You're so good. No, I'm not. You're so sweet. No, my mom is sweeter. The the compliments just bounce off of them. They can't accept it. So that's a weaker ego, and the weaker ego leads to self-doubt, insecurity, and negative self-concept, and that means low self-esteem. We don't want that. So we want to have a healthy ego that promotes a positive self-image. We want to look at ourselves in the mirror and think well of ourselves. We want to be able to say, when someone says, you're so good at that, thank you. We're not like, oh yeah, the world revolves around me. No, but we're also not putting ourselves below the earth. We're right where we should be. It's very healthy. What are the challenges of the ego? And if you could put in the chat, if any of this resonates with you. I haven't asked you all any questions, I'm sorry, because it's such an interesting topic. It's so different from how we use the word normally. But has anyone ever met anyone with an inflated ego? We're going to talk about that now. With an inflated ego. An inflated ego can lead to arrogance, narcissism, and self-centeredness. Of course, that's when we say, oh, he has such a big ego. He's egotistical. Of course, those traits damage relationships, create conflicts, hinder growth. Because again, if I'm everything, I'm perfect, I'm all the way, there's no way to grow. And no one is like that. No one walks the earth like that, right? And an overly rigid ego, we use that word a lot around here, rigid, can make us resistant, again, to feedback. Someone says, you did really good at that, but you know what can make it better? And you're like, nothing, I did it perfectly. So we resist the feedback. We resist new ideas. No, I go this way. This is the way I go all the time. And someone says, oh, yeah, but if you make a left here, you avoid all that traffic. And no, this, right? Rigid. No. And it makes us resist personal growth. We can't grow when we have an inflated ego. Have you ever met anyone with an inflated ego? You could just say yes. And so we could become defensive, close ourselves off to learning opportunities. And how sad that would be. We want to keep growing, no matter what our age. And of course, an inflated ego can cause problems in any relationships, friends, family, spouse, work, right? As neighbors. And it contributes to a lack of empathy because our ego takes center stage. We are it. And it's difficult to see things from another person's perspective. But empathy is seeing from the other person's perspective, putting ourselves in their shoes, walking in their shoes so that we can get where they're coming from. But if I'm right all the time, now all the yeses are coming through. Yeah, we all know people like that. We have to work on us not being like that as well, because it leads to insensitivity, selfishness, difficulty understanding and responding to the needs of others because it's all about me, 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 me. Ooh, and it's not even pleasant being around people like that. And the ego can make us defensive, preventing us from really listening to and understanding others. So we're not compassionate, we're not empathetic. It's all about me. It's not pretty at all. And it can also lead to a need to be right all the time. So that hinders collaboration with others, right? And productive communication. Because if I'm right all the time, I don't care what you say or you say, I'm right. And that's it. Case closed. There's that ego, but an unhealthy, inflated ego. We want to have a healthy ego. And then we learn that a weaker ego leads to self-doubt, insecurity, and negative self-concept. So we don't want that either. We want to have a healthy ego. Okay. So how does the ego sabotage even professional success and obviously personal success? Well, what are the 5 types of egos? Well, the unhealthy ego states are selfish, pleaser, rebellious, master manipulator, critical, enabling. Wow. Yeah, that's what the unhealthy ego offers to us. And again, we resist learning. We don't want to admit that ego, the unhealthy ego, doesn't want to admit that it doesn't know everything. But how can we know everything? And there again, it limits our capacity to improve. The need for recognition. So the ego is constantly seeking external approval. And that can lead to a pursuit of superficial success, forgetting what truly matters, because it's all about what every other person perceives. As long as they view me that way, it doesn't really matter who I am on the inside, for real, authentically. I'm just more concerned about what everybody sees, keeping up appearances. And I want them to see the best of me, and then I'll get the recognition that I deserve, right? It could be, for example, a business owner has a lot to do. The business would do so much better if they delegated. But the ego, only I can do things right. I can't rely on these people. Nobody's going to do it the way I do. And what happens? He gets burned out. The business not only doesn't grow, but it goes kaput. It could be a wife and mother, totally overwhelmed with the household, the husband, the three children, the house, her career or her job or her hobbies, time for herself. And then she may even be taking care of an aging parent. And instead of her asking for help and delegating within the family arrangement, I'm not giving my 16-year-old daughter the bathroom to clean because no one can clean it like I can. And no, I'll cook every day because, and no, I'm going to do your children are teenagers and they can't do their own laundry? No, because I don't want them breaking my machine. She's the only one that can do everything, but then, right now she's the victim because she's worn out. And then she can't be what she needs to be for family. She's the woman of the house, but they don't get to spend time with her because she's always working, doing stuff. She has no time to sit down and enjoy the meal with her family. She has no time to sit with her children and talk to them. She has no time to have a date night with her husband because there's so much to do in the house. But that's her ego. Because when people walk in and they say, with everything you have going on, girl, this house is immaculate. I could eat off the floor. How do you do it? Oh, and there she goes. Oh, she feels. You see, she wants her ego inflated by others. She wants and needs that recognition, but she's burning herself out. How long can she last like that? How long can she go like that? It's not reasonable. Another thing we do, and I alluded to it before, but let's dive in a little more, is we become people pleasers. And we do it to feed our ego because we want to feel important. So this is what it looks like. And I know this is how I was before I learned this stuff. And I want you to really look at yourself and say, is that me? We never say no. Mm-mm. I'm here. That's what my life's journey is, to help others. I love helping others. And we burn ourselves. There's nothing wrong with helping others. We should help. It's a beautiful thing to help others out of our abundance. But when we're motivated by this ego, the I that needs recognition because there's a hole in our soul. There's a hole in our soul from childhood that wasn't filled from our caregivers, our parents. And we're trying to fill that hole in our soul. And we want to fill it with other people saying, you're the best. Oh my goodness. Oh, I couldn't live without her. Do you know what she did for me? Oh, you are thank you so. Oh. But inside, because we didn't get it out of our abundance, we really didn't have it to give, energy, whatever it is, the hole grows bigger. Even the praise from others from the outside does not fill the soul. We're exhausted. And then we still keep, because it becomes an addiction. We want to hear it. But because we're not giving, so here's the thing, we're not giving out of our abundance, we're giving out of our want. And our need, out of our need, because we don't have it to give. I give the example. I have $101 in the bank. I've paid all my big expenses, rent, car, insurance, da 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 da. I have $101 left for the week to buy groceries, to get my gas for the car, whatever else. If you ask me, Karen, can I borrow $100? Can I give you can I? Technically, yes. I have $101 in the bank. But can I? Because I won't be able to get to work. I won't be able to drive my car. I don't have gas. I won't be able to eat because I haven't gone grocery shopping yet. But if I have $1,000 in the bank and you say, Karen, can I borrow 100? And I've paid all my bills and I just have to get my gas and my grocery shopping, which will be about $100. Sure, it's no sweat. And if in a week you say, oh my goodness, Karen, I thought I could pay you back now, but can I do it next week? Yeah, sure. Because I'm not going to miss out. But if I give you the $100 out of my $101 and I give it to you, I have $1 to work with. I have $1. I can't even eat. And that's what we're doing to ourselves when we can't. Oh, but I love helping people. It fills me. No, it doesn't. It kills you emotionally, physically, mentally. Your cup is empty. There's nothing. There's nothing in here. And you're giving out of nothing. But you know what that does? And that's where the ego comes in. If I give it to you like that out of nothing, not out of my abundance, but out of an empty cup, now you owe me. That's the ego. Now we're not consciously, oh, Sally says finger snap. Hey, Sally. We're not conscious of this. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I love talking about overextending, because that's what most of us do, thinking that we're being good to others and we're the good Samaritan. And I just love it. That's what I love helping others. Beautiful. But help them after you help yourself. How about that? How about that? Because when my cup is empty and I give to you, oh, you owe me big time. And we're not conscious of this. But then this is how you know it. Because there will be people who will praise us when we go over and beyond for them. But many of them won't. Because some people look at it as, well, I asked and you came and you provided. You did the thing. You must have been able to, which is a reasonable expectation. No one in their right mind, a loving person wouldn't want us to kill ourselves to give to them. A loving person wouldn't take my $100 and leave me with $1 to eat off for a week. They would never do that. But if I give it readily, they assume I have $1,000 and I'm loaning them the 100, and then I'll get back to Karen next week. When we give like that out of an empty cup, and we don't get back what we want, which is, oh, all the praise. Oh, now we mad. Oh, it's on now. How dare she? She's so ungrateful. I can't believe. And now we're the victim. It's a vicious cycle. And when we step back and look at what kind of giving were we giving, most of us have to realize it's from an empty cup, or even a cup that has this amount in it. It's not enough. That won't quench my thirst. It definitely can't quench mine and yours. But if my cup is full and I'm giving you out of what overflows from it, whatever I give you, even if you never turn back and say thank you, doesn't matter, because it didn't cost me anything. I can just give it freely because I have an abundance. I have $1,000 in the bank. I give you 100. I buy my grocery. I still have 800 left. You can't pay me back the following. It's okay when you can. It's all right. But if I'm stuck with $1, now I have to go to my parents' house and get food and this one and that one. And now you can't pay me back. Oh, now it's on. How dare you? What do you mean? And the person is looking because they had no idea. And the really interesting thing is, a lot of times they didn't even ask. Here we go. You want me to do this, this, and this for you? And they're like, oh, sure. So the person definitely feels we're giving out of our abundance if we're offering. And then we walk around. I know how, yeah, I anticipate. I'm very observant. And if I see people need something, I just do it. But what are you doing for yourself? And when we look at it from this other not so nice angle. What the ego is really pushing us to do all of this stuff, it gives a whole new spin. It's not pretty. When you look at it like that, like, what? I was doing that? I don't have pure motives? I'm doing this to feed my ego that's way down here, and I'm trying to lift it up by getting outward admiration and thanks and praise. When I found that out, I was devastated. Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that was the motivating for. I thought I was really being a nice person. But it turns out my logical brain was being nice. But my subconscious with that ego, not pretty. We have to work on it. Does that resonate with anyone? Anybody have a question on that? Because it's deep. And when we start looking at ourselves honestly, it's like, ooh, I can't, but what? We can even be like that in our worship too. Our religious worship, how we carry out our ministry, whatever our ministry is. Do we give to ourselves first? How can we give joyfully, generously from an empty cup, squeaky dry? There is a little drop of water in here. Let me see. It didn't quench my thirst. What good is it? And then we're left exhausted, angry, resentful, empty, sad, victim. Oh, and we did it to ourselves. We did it to ourselves. Can anyone identify? Does that resonate with anyone? I'm the first to say, that's how I used to be. Give, 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 give. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what a good Christian does. But a good Christian has to look out for themselves first. Then when I give out of my abundance, oh my goodness, I feel good about it. That's how I can be a happy giver. The person I give it to, it's chock full of love. People receive from us differently. They don't realize it, but it could be something very small, or something instead of something so huge. It could be something small, but ooh, they feel it, they get it, they receive it in a much more bountiful way because we're giving it in abundance, out of our abundance. Oh, my sissy's here. Hey. Fabby Boo says yes. Danielle says absolutely. Itza says guilty. Keisha says yes. We do it. And more so as females. Oh, but we have to stop. And that's why I wanted to do this topic, because when we see where it's really coming from, because we really think that we're great people, and that's good. But when we see that ugly side of the ego, and that's what's really pushing us, it's like, oh, I don't like that. Marion says, yes, the triangle. Then we're in that dramatic triangle. Savior, victim, persecutor. I'm going to save you because by saving you, I'm hoping to save myself. No. I'm going to save myself first. That's what I need to do. I'm going to focus on me. And when I'm all filled up and I've done what good is it for me to take someone else to the doctor, help her with her appointments, clean her house, and I haven't made my doctor's appointments, and I'm driving everybody around for theirs. What if my health deteriorates? Everybody loses out. We take care of ourselves first, we have more to give. Of course, the oxygen mask on the plane, moms, parents, put it on yourself, then the child. It all blends together. Sally says yes. And when you start to make the adjustments to be more balanced, people feel a certain type of way, like we're bad, and she put it in quotes, for putting ourselves first. And you know what I say to that? Oh, well. Because you know what's going to happen? They'll judge you at first, but then they're going to see, because in the beginning, it's hard to make the changes. It's really hard because it's just decades we've been doing this, right? But when we start pulling back, when we start saying no, when we start setting limits, boundaries, we talk about all the time, then months later, people, oh, you looking good, girl. Wow, how you, what are you doing something new? They're curious because they see you just flying, flying. They notice it. And then when you're able to give to them, because we don't stop giving, it's just we give to ourselves first, and then out of our abundance, we give to others. When we do that, they feel it. They take it. It reaches their heart. They can feel it. When I was learning this, the therapist that was giving the class said during COVID, there was a therapist, and imagine COVID, wow, we all were affected by it. There was a therapist who her phone rang basically 24 hours a day. People were coming to her house, knocking on her door, begging for help. It was non-stop. She got so burnt out months in. Of course, in the beginning, her natural instinct was to help, to help, to help. And when she realized, I'm getting burnt out, I'm not even gonna be any good for myself. Therapists go to therapists. Wise therapists do. So she went to this other therapist, and he said, oh, you're doing way too much. You need downtime. Why is your phone on 24 hours a day? Set boundaries. Let them know. But they, what do you mean they? You're going to burn out, and you won't be good to yourself or them. You have to set boundaries. So she set office hours. She set office hours. People would write to her, and she would tell them, I'm open, available 9 to 5. So, because if I call you and you pick up, great. But if I reach out to you and you say, oh, I'm not available now, but you can call me between 9 and 5 tomorrow, people respect. But if I don't know, I don't know, right? If you don't set the boundary, you're always available to me, right? When she did that, and she was like, oh, I'm going to lose my clients. She thought they'd be devastated. People respect when we set the boundaries. And if they don't, it's okay, because we're taking care of ourselves. So the boundary is set. She kept her clients, and she found that the same client before would call daily or 3 or 4 times a week. It was like, and the despair, the angst. When she set the boundaries, she started saying, wow, because they would call even after their session with her. Now she's like, oh, they're good until their next session the next week. Why? That she was shocked. And her therapist said it's because what you're giving to them is such a fullness of a therapy, because you're full. You're giving out of your abundance now to them. It keeps them for a week. You were giving them crumbs because that's all you had. You were eating crumbs, and you were giving them crumbs. It didn't satisfy them. They had to keep coming back, coming back, coming back. And you'll see that in your life. When you take care of yourself, and then when you give out of your abundance, you're like, wow, she used to call me do you have those friends? And they won't call you as much, because what you're going to give them is your whole body and soul. It's the best thing ever. It is the best thing ever. Let me see. Oh, we got some comments. Marinez says, yes, the triangle. PJ says, the saying is, I'd rather be a villain in your story than a victim in mine. has a little trace of resentment in there, Pam. But yeah, when we set the boundary, but we have to set the boundary. The boundary. Let's look at it this way. You go into you go to a shop and it has the close sign, closed. And then you look. Oh, what are the hours? Oh, they close at 5. It's 5:30. So the boundary is I'm closing shop. That this is what you're saying to yourself. I'm closing shop, not forever, but I'm closing shop for the rest of the day so that I can take, or for this hour, or we might have a golden hour. We may get up early so that all the rest of the world is asleep and we have like a good hour in the morning just for ourselves. Ooh, that's the sweetest thing ever. Or in the evening, or whatever. And we can picture ourselves putting up a sign, closed for business or closed for lunch, be back in an hour. Right? In small towns, it's, gone fishing, be back soon. Right? We were visiting Cape May over the weekend, beautiful beach town. And we went in this little cute place to eat. And the guy was like, whatever you want, because I'm closing next week. He spent 6 months in Jersey, Cape May, for the big tourist season. And then he closes shop and he goes to Egypt, his home, for 6 months. And he puts his close sign, see you in the spring, and that's it. So when we do that, we're happier and they're happier. So we want to set the boundaries, but it's because we're closing shop so we can take care of ourselves. We're not just putting up boundaries, stay over there. I can't deal with these people, because we're like that because we're burnt out. But the purpose of putting up the closed for business sign, closed for the day, is to give ourselves that time. Make our doctor's appointments, make time for our exercise, eating good, spending time with vitamin people, all the things, doing our diaphragmatic breathing, moving, physical exercise, taking care of our stuff, cleaning our home, organizing our closet. So when we open it, it brings us joy, all the things, but it takes time. Gio says, when we have to choose, yes, when we have to choose guilt over resentment, always choose guilt. Choose guilt first. Because it's difficult to say no when we're so used to people pleasing. But when you see the reason why, it's the hole in your soul. And the only person that can fill that hole is you. So you need to close down shop so you could give to yourself. And Deborah Owen says self-care first, always. We deserve it. We deserve it. And our bodies and minds and spirit requires it. Whew. So, what do I suggest for someone who this is a real, like, you look at your life and you're like, I'm doing way too much for everybody else. I really need to give to myself. Take the rest of the month. Today's the 14th of October. Take the rest of the month that you only do the necessary things for others. All the extra stuff, especially the I anticipate other people's needs. Hold yourself back. Think about that ego and say, ego, you know what? We're going to do things differently. I thought that if I got the recognition from the outside, it would fill me up, but it just keeps me coming back for more, for more, for more. I'm going to fill myself up. I'm going to be my mom, my dad. What I wanted them to do and they didn't do, I'm going to give that to myself. And I'm going to be refreshed and I'm going to be all filled up. And everybody that comes in contact with me, they're going to feel the difference. They're going to feel it. Because you're going to be different in a beautiful way. No animosity, no anger, no resentment, just happy and content. Yay! It's very, very exciting. So, next week, we're going to talk about how to control the ego and the benefits of doing so. What an interesting topic, right? The ego. So now when we hear it, we know it's just not, being conceited, thinking too much of yourself. There are other aspects of the ego that we must attend to. And when we do, we're happier. We don't sabotage our emotions or relationships or our success. We have good relationships. We manage our emotions well. We are successful in everything we do, and we're happy. That's what it leads to. Pure joy and happiness. And we're a joy to be around too. Marion says, bank closed for the winter. Yes. Yeah. We have the choice to decide. You may say, you know what, I'm going to give myself, you know how people have a no spend month. They're trying to, really rein in their spending habits. I'm not going to spend for the month of October. You could say, from today until November, I'm going to take a month. I'm not going to do for others, just the things that are very necessary. Because, oh, guess what? We're not the only people in the world. They have other people that can do these things for them if they really need the help. The world does not revolve around us. It'll get done whether it's us or someone else. Let someone else do it that they have $1,000 in the bank and they can loan someone $100. If you have $101, you can't give 100. You technically can, but you're going to suffer. Is that my Candida? Oh, it's so good to have you here. This is music to my ears, needing to hear all this. I'm so glad to have you. Thanks for jumping in the chat. So you decide, do you want to do a month? Do you want to do 2 weeks? Instead of, what did I call it? What do they say? A no spend month. We can say a no do month. And we can talk about it in the emotional wellness chat on WhatsApp. Alejandro, ¿estás ahí? ¿Puedes poner el enlace? If someone is here who is not in the emotional wellness chat, please join in and let's continue this discussion over there. I'll open it and close it daily. And if someone wants to, well, tonight I'm going to have it open, say till 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and put in there what the promise you want to do for yourself. Do you want to do a week of no doing? A day, 2 weeks, a month, 3 weeks, 4 months? Marion looks like she's closing for the winter. It's because it's you know how much you have overextended yourself and how much time you need. And you may say a month and then you say, oh no, that wasn't enough. I need some more. All right, we got this, guys. We got this. Y'all did so good. We're being honest with ourselves and we're willing to do the work. That's what it requires. And we get better. And again, it just leads to joy and happiness. And that heavy weight that we carry around, that it just weighs us little by little. As they say in Liberia, small, it starts lifting up off of us. And woo, freedom, happiness, joy. That's what we want around here. Love you all. It's good to be back. You're very welcome, Gio. Good to have you here. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Big hugs as usual. Be well. Take good care of yourselves. I'm going to open the wellness chat. Get in there and let us know. Let's make some promises. Oh, Elvin says, please share and subscribe and like. Marsha. Hey, Marsha. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Yeah, if you could press the like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. And if there's anyone you think could benefit from this, please share it. We want others to enjoy. See you all next week, but I'll see you in the chat too. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to open it up. All right? All right. We can do this. Bye. Have a great evening. Hello. My name is Karen Marinez. I'm an emotional wellness coach. I help you learn how to identify, process, and untangle those emotions that we all deal with on a daily basis. Vimes Life now has a membership for the English-speaking audience. It's really good news. So let me tell you 5 benefits that you gain by joining the membership. The first one is you get videos made monthly exclusively for you, those who are part of the membership. Number 2, once a month you get a live Zoom with me so we can interact. I can teach you, comfort you, and answer your questions. It'll be really nice. Number 3, you get a separate chat exclusively for those within the membership. 4th benefit, you get special stickers. When you interact in the chat on YouTube Live, when we're live on Mondays, your name will have a little special sticker next to it to identify you as one of the members of the membership. And number 5, last but not least, you get special discounts on our courses. So you say, well, how do I sign up? Right below, right by the subscribe button, we hope you subscribe. Right by the subscribe button, there's a circle. It's white inside, black lettering, it says join. Press that. You'll see the first 3 options are for the Spanish audience with Spanish speaking coaches. Mine is the last one, and guess what it's called? Vimes Life Inner Circle. So come on into my inner circle so we can get to know each other better and I can help you and coach you. I'll see you soon. Bye now.